Okay, chapter 9. The speed of the leader is the speed of the gang in the Mary Kay way. The speed of the leader is the speed of the gang is frequently heard at sales directors' meetings. We believe a good sales director should set the pace for her unit. A Mary Kay independent sales director who's working the way we've taught her will constantly encourage her people to strive for excellence in all facets of the business. She will emphasize that her unit members should become informed about the entire cosmetics field, mastering the product line, recognize the value of good personal grooming, serve the customer, and practice effective time management. Any leader can talk about excellence. A good one leads by example. Lead by example. For instance, it's imperative for all beauty consultants to become thoroughly knowledgeable about our product line. This isn't unduly complicated. It's simply a matter of doing your homework. But a sales director can't convince her beauty consultants to become product experts unless she herself is an expert. I can't imagine a sales director conducting a sales meeting without thorough product knowledge. The admonition to do as I say and not as I do will not fly. I'm sure it's the same in our company as in others. Nothing takes the place of a good working leader. Unfortunately, many people who work hard to be promoted to a leadership position develop acute executivitis, like they're executives, once they're promoted. Some members of the independent sales force stop holding skincare classes after they become an independent sales director. As a consequence, some become weak sellers, team builders, and trainers. The success they had enjoyed in growing their businesses was a direct result of meeting new customers and prospective beauty consultants at skincare classes. Now glued to their desks, they no longer seemed to meet suitable prospects, and they couldn't imagine why. What's more, they stopped working their businesses. They no longer inspired their unit members to do so. Have you ever noticed that your enthusiasm is always stronger when you have just done what you're teaching? A leader must present a good example in appearance as well as work habits. Image is important. We're in the beauty business, so we want to project a good image. Independent beauty consultants are self-employed, independent business owners. Therefore, they have the right to wear whatever they choose. So again, it's up to the sales director to lead by example. When a sales director dresses impeccably, this clearly reminds the people that proper dress will enhance the image of a beauty expert. I take pride in the fact that women who represent Mary Kay have always followed this practice. As for myself, even if I must make a quick weekend or late night stop at the office, I have always been very particular about what I wear because I feel it's important for me to set the example. I also refuse to receive visitors in my home unless I look my best. As founder of a cosmetic company, I feel I must project a certain image. And for this reason, if I'm not presentable, I simply will not answer the door. I've even had to limit my favorite pastime, gardening. I don't feel it would be appropriate to be seen in my yard covered with mud. These practices have become well known, and as a result, I've been told that many national sales directors behave in the same way. Every one of them dresses very smartly and is a style setter for thousands of independent beauty consultants in her area. Even the men in our company are influenced by the dress of our male leaders. Several years ago, when Richard was still in his 20s, he decided he wanted to wear sports shirts to work instead of suits. Within a matter of weeks, all the other men in the office stopped wearing suits and were wearing sports shirts. When he realized what had happened, Richard returned to a more appropriate work image, and shortly thereafter, the other men did as well. People frequently mimic a leader's work habits and self-discipline, for better or for worse. If she habitually comes to work late, takes long lunches, makes long personal phone calls, has constant coffee breaks, and watches the clock all day, the people under her will probably follow the same example. Fortunately, workers also copy the good habits. I make it a practice to clear off my desk at the end of the day and take unfinished work home in what I call my think bag. I prefer beginning a new day with all previous work out of the way. Although I've never asked them to do so, my assistants and support staff now take think bags home too. Operate from experience. A good leader operates not on theory, but on experience. Simple directives may go unheeded unless you can back them up with ample proof that what you're asking others can do can be done. And what better proof than for them to know that you can do it? This was the rationale behind an interesting plan that was to cause quite a stir at Mary Kay. We asked independent beauty consultants to book 10 beauty shows for 1 week. We knew that if they held 2 shows every day, they would realize a dramatic increase in earnings. And so on the way home from a leadership conference, members of our administrative staff designed a plan to accomplish this goal. At the next staff meeting, I sensed that something was in the air. Finally, it became apparent that the newest member had been elected to tell me something. Mary Kay, he said with much enthusiasm, we have a fantastic idea for you. And we know it's one you're going to love. With this, he rose and began pacing around the room with excitement of expectant father. You're just going to love it, he repeated. It's a great idea, and we know that it's going to work. What is it? I asked calmly. Well, Mary Kay, we decided that if you held 10 classes in a week, then every consultant and sales director in the field would know that if you could do it with all you have to do, they could too. He glanced at the others before carefully adding, would you do it? I hadn't held 10 classes in 10 years, and so this was a shocking prospect. I wrapped my fingernails on the conference table. The Lone Ranger never had hoofs so loud, he said as he sat down. But I was thinking that if I did it, no one else could have any doubts that she could do it as well. It's a great idea, I said aloud. I'll do it. It was later that the panic set in. How was I going to find 10 people for 10 classes? I didn't have any friends who hadn't already hosted several skincare classes, and if they hadn't hosted a show, then they probably were no longer friends. The answer suddenly seemed obvious. I turned to our young spokesman and asked, Phil, you're new with the company. Has your wife, Carol, ever held a Mary Kay skincare class? Well, no, he replied, she hasn't. Fine, you tell Carol I'm going to be calling her. She's going to just love this new experience. I looked at the rest of the executives sitting around the table, and in a matter of minutes, I found several whose wives had never held a Mary Kay skincare class, including my daughter-in-law, the wife of the president of the company. What amazed me was how hundreds of Mary Kay beauty consultants had passed the offices of these administrators and had never thought to ask, has your wife ever held a Mary Kay skincare class? And so I accomplished what seemed to be at first an impossible job simply by looking at the most obvious place. I looked to those around me. The sales development department made quite a promotion of it all. A contest was held to see who could hold the most shows, do the largest sales volume, and book the most future shows. In order to make sure I'd get my 10 shows in, I actually booked an extra 4. I even lined up my stockbroker for Saturday afternoon to show our men's line. Booking shows proved to be the easiest part of the task. What everyone had forgotten was the product had evolved considerably over the past 10 years. Of course, I had been involved with these changes, but I had never practiced the mechanics of selling all the new shades or charting variances and skin tones. I didn't even know how to assemble our fancy display case. So I contacted Laquita McCollum of Dallas, and she became my sales director for the promotion. She instructed me of all the new products and helped me fill out an order for merchandise. The requisition totaled $4,000. I was astonished at the amount. And I said, Laquita, if I were going to take this home to my husband and tell him that I was going to sell this much, he would tell me I'd lost my mind. No, she insisted. I know you can do it. The weekend before my trial, I unpacked $4,000 of Mary Kay products. It included every shade of every product we offered. I was overwhelmed by the physical scope of the line and at the same time, I was frightened. The sales department had already announced in Applause magazine that I accepted the challenge. Thousands of independent beauty consultants were now asking themselves, can she really do it? And if I couldn't do it, how would I recover from falling on my face in front of my entire organization? They could never again trust what I had to say. I practiced for hours, drilling myself on the details of every item. I read the latest literature. I reread the educational manuals that had been written long ago. On Monday morning, I began the first class at the home of my daughter-in-law. At this point, you may be saying, of course she succeeded. She's the founder of the company. Who wouldn't come to a show and buy cosmetics from Mary Kay herself? But I had asked each hostess not to tell her guests that I would be presenting the program. And believe me, few recognized me, and none bought simply because I was Mary Kay. They gave me all the same excuses and resistance that every other beauty consultant receives. I bought makeup yesterday. I don't need to cleanse my face with special products. I just use good old soap and water. My husband lost his job and my kids seem to be coming down with chickenpox. Oh, by the end of the week, I had held 10 shows, booked 19 for the future, which I subsequently turned over to someone else, recruited 2 beauty consultants, and chalked up sales volume totaling 2,500. When the top producers for the week were announced, I was actually number 3 in the entire United States. Considering I hadn't done a show in 10 years, that wasn't bad. It was a terrific feeling to know that I could still go out there and still do it. And our corporate sales team was right. It was wonderful, a wonderful morale booster for the sales force. I'm sure there's not a sales manager around who hasn't heard things are different now from what they were when you were out in the field. This is probably the oldest cop-out on record. I'm sure the world's first sales manager heard this from the world's first salesperson. Naturally, things do change in time, but the basics of every business remain constant. There's nothing quite so inspiring to a sales staff as a leader who demonstrates that she or he still has what it takes to sell. Ah, this is exciting. Okay, showing works better than telling. Years ago, when I was a national training director for another direct sales company, I traveled all over the country conducting sales meetings. When I had a morning meeting, I'd sometimes arrive the day before and hold a party for one of the salespeople. The next day, when somebody would say, that worked 10 years ago, Mary Kay, but things are different now, I'd reply with an example. It worked last night with Maria. It earned $200 for her. And that was here in Boston and not in Houston. It gave me tremendous credibility. And so your image as a leader is based upon many complex factors: your knowledge of the company's products, your personal credibility and sense of self-respect, your sound work habits, and your willingness to develop a thorough understanding of the worker's problems. But if you also happen to be a woman, then you can have additional challenges. Women leaders from other industries sometimes ask me, Mary Kay, how do you handle problems with men who resent the fact that you're a woman and their boss? Another question I frequently hear is, what about women who resent having a woman as their leader? I first tell them that I've never had that problem, but I do understand that other women do. It doesn't make any difference what you are, I say. You can be 7 feet tall and purple, but if you can prove you know what you're talking about, you'll have the respect that you deserve. Yes, a woman might have to work harder than a man to prove how good she is, but then What else is new? And finally, one of my pet peeves is a leader who doesn't use his or her products. Oh my gosh. I have seen Cadillac dealers driving Mercedes and life insurance managers that were uninsured. Not only is this poor public relations, but it also has the most negative impact on company employees. I believe that a leader should use his or her company products and do so with pride. I use everything Mary Kay. I noticed that one, I've always have. I noticed that one of our executives have been using another company's compact and lipstick. One day while she was retouching her makeup, I went to her desk and said quite dramatically, "Good heavens, what are you doing? You can't possibly use that in this office." Although I said it with humor, she got the message. Later that day, I sent her our lip and eye palette. Today, all new employees are given product demonstrations and a complete set of Mary Kay products. And of course, they are allowed to purchase any future needs at a discount. I believe we must practice what we preach. It really pleases me when I see a stranger using our products. Recently, I was on an airplane and a woman 3 rows away from me took out one of our lip and eye palettes on the plane and began to descend as the plane began to descend for landing. I said to the flight attendant, "Would you please tell that lady I said thank you?" Although the attendant looked at me rather strangely, she passed along the message. The woman looked at me and I moved my lips to thank her again. When the plane landed, she waited for me to get off and she said she had recognized me and told me how much she enjoyed the products. Naturally, I was flattered, but I was also proud. I believe in our products so strongly that I not only use them myself, but I also enjoy sharing them with my family and friends. There's a great deal of responsibility involved with being a leader. And the higher your position, the more attention you must devote to projecting an appropriate image. You are always in the spotlight and you must act accordingly. Lead by an example, and soon your people will do as you do. All the people at Mary Kay Inc. and in the independent sales force believe that the speed of the leader is indeed the speed of the gang.